Can everybody hear me okay? Make sure the mic's on loud enough. We're within 60 seconds of beginning here. So if you want to take a second and run and get something quick you might have forgotten. Otherwise, we'll get going here in a little bit. Let everybody get settled. Well, in respect of everyone, in honor of time, it is 6 o'clock, and so we'll get started. I think we all know each other. I don't see there's any real reason to introduce ourselves or anything. I'm happy to do this tonight because to me this is what a church conference should be, and the ones that we've been doing just seem to be sort of like just reviewing the forms, okaying them, sending them in. The DS is okays 5 or 6 churches, and then we move on. But I think tonight what we want to do is we want to begin sharing again where the church is at, what the church has been doing, maybe some information that you hadn't known. And yes, we are going to go through some charge conference forms. It'll feel kind of strange. Specifically, the one that's going to feel a little bit weird is okaying last year's minutes, because, you know, and they're really... we're just going to rubber stamp that job, and so a few of those things, I just have to let you know that some things are just going to be kind of awkward, and we're just going to move on from them, and I'll kind of coach what we can do as far as okaying things and ratifying things. So the first thing we want to start out with is our devotion. Now, Nancy Gillespie and I talked one time, and she shared this devotion with me. And I thought it would be great for tonight to begin, and then we'll begin a word of prayer. So 1 Peter 5, 1 through 6 says, "To the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder and a witness of Christ's suffering, who also will share in the glory to be revealed. Be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you are willing as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock." And so this particular devotion has a pastor in a different community, actually a different culture altogether. She's in the Dominican Republic, and she's going to do this meeting, but she doesn't have time for lunch or dinner or whatever it is, and so she just grabs a quick bag of chips and she opens it. And what she doesn't understand in the Dominican Republic, if you open a bag of chips in public, it's automatically to be shared. So as she opens it, she takes a couple chips out. The lady next to her grabs the bag and takes a couple chips out and hands it next. And pretty soon, before she knows it, her bag of chips is over there, and then it's gone. Well, she doesn't understand that that's the culture. So tonight, I don't particularly want to share my chips. See, the idea is, to me, ministry needs to be shared. And if you notice, there's varieties of chips in here, and not everyone has the same type of chips. And so, I might need help here. You got a good fingernail or something? There you go. You get that? Pretty tough, isn't it? See, talk about sharing right now. There you go. You about got it. Ready? We'll do one more. So when we get this open, yeah, we'll be done. Okay, let's go this way, and then we'll be able to. Oh, I just tear it out.
Oh, you have a key?
Yeah, I want to just do. I got a set of keys here. No, it's good. Good. Way to go, John. Okay, so you don't want to open it, smack you in the head. Now, sometimes about this box, thank you, Ainsley. about this box right here. You see that? There might not be all of our favorite brands of chips in this. Who likes original Fritos? All right, there you go. Oh, bad idea. That's going to be an insurance liability. For the Huskers. Okay. No, I didn't play for the Huskers. Who likes Cheetos? There we go. Who doesn't like Cheetos, I should ask. How you doing, Carol? Oh, Cheetos there. Now see, here's the thing. We're not about to eat chips. Is that okay with you? Sure, there you go. That's some Cheetos. How about Doritos? Okay. Or you get to decide which one there. There you go, Sue. See, the thing is, ministry is to be shared. This whole box, you know, one of the things I learned as a pastor is that leadership is best multiplied when it's divided. And so if I have these bags, this whole box of chips, my responsibility as a pastor is to share this. There you go. Oh, there you go. And so when you're doing a ministry, the whole idea is to share that ministry. Share the leadership of, oh, you guys got to, give me that. Dennis, how could you? Okay. All right. Here. Boy, that thing's really howling. Okay. Well, the idea of ministry is, even if you don't want to eat it, you can give it to somebody. Yikes. This is probably not working right, is it? Sorry. Oh, I can turn my mic on now? I turned it off on purpose. Oh, sorry guys online. These people are growing. Anyway, so the idea with this, and it's a little messy if you noticed, right? Ministry isn't always ding, 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 right down the line. And so the first thing we understand when we begin ministry is that we don't have it perfect. Anybody remember the first time you ever played basketball or ever swam or ever brushed your teeth or ever did anything that, when my dad drove, it looked so simple when he drove until I got behind the wheel myself. And I didn't realize how tough it was. Ministry is there's all sorts of things that come at us. Things that doesn't come with a manual in order to go, well, when this happens, this happens. But most importantly, ministry is to be shared. A church is in real trouble that closes its doors and leaves people out. And a frustrating thing to me one year, this lady that was Jess and I's friend, she made 3 pies for a dinner one night, and they were asking for pies. And when she showed up with 3 pies, some of the ladies looked at her, and 2 of them didn't really care for the lady and went, we already have enough pies. And so here she takes her 3 pies home and never bakes another pie for the church again. So even if you don't care for the person, or even if the pies, you're full up, just take the pies. And just do some things and see. The idea with ministry is that together it goes much better than it is if I kept this whole box for myself. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And what am I getting at? Tonight, we have people coming forward, and they're going to talk to us about some of the things we've been working on. And I want more and more people, well, if I could say it straight to you, I want more and more of you to get involved with your church, to get involved with the way you're doing things. Now, I understand there might be limitations, there might be difficulties, and that's fine. I definitely understand that. But if you're in ministry in somewhere, it is really good to look at someone and say, hey, you want to come along with me and do this? We can disciple one another, we can work together. So tonight is the first night of, I hope, many, many, many charge conferences or church conferences like this. This is going to be messy. It's not going to be pretty. And we're going to kind of wonder why we're doing what and this and that. But as we continue on, I hope we have discussions. I hope we have disagreements. I hope there's some passion in this meeting. Some passion because it makes a difference and it matters. So I hope we continue this and it becomes part of our life of our church. And this is a place where we come to understand and celebrate and praise God and raise each other up. But for tonight, we'll just listen to some fine people who have been working hard this year at the church. Let's bow our heads and let's pray. Heavenly Father, we invite you into this tonight. We know that you share the world with us. You give us ample opportunities to create and recreate. And Lord, you share with us the body and blood of Christ. So Lord, help us to do the same and share with others, opening these doors, opening our hearts, and opening our minds in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so we're going to do a couple things tonight. The first thing is we're going to do what's called our work. This is what we have been doing over the last year. And so our work will be just simply saying, this is what's been happening. And then we're going to move on from our work into all these charge conference forms. That's what you all have these packets right here for. I don't know how much of it will all make sense to you this first time. Some of you have seen these before, some of you have not. And we'll just, yeah. Okay, so there's a good opportunity to share again. If someone's next to you, share with them. And we didn't quite know how many people we'd have. But that's okay. You'll get familiar with what we're doing. So my job, part of this, our work of 2021 and 2022, is to share with you just our leadership change. I got to tell you, I want to be here and I want to stay here for a while. And according to your staff parish relations committee, you want me to stay here for a while. Now that may seem to be like a normal thing, but understand, guys, a pastoral change, I think we've done pretty well together this past year. I think we are in good shape. I don't want to leave, and you don't want me to leave yet, right? But the idea is we're all, you and me, pastor, church, are ready to roll. We're ready to move forward. And that's a big thing. I think that needs to be celebrated. I think this is God's work. And then here are some things that we've been doing as far as my side of the job goes. Confirmation. It was a little strange coming back from COVID. We had kind of a weird area there. I think all churches did. But when we came back, we had 17 kids at different nights. But overall, we had 17 who wanted to be part of confirmation. We just confirmed a couple weeks ago 10 of those 17. And it is a 3-year process. One of the ladies I think swallowed her teeth when I said it's 3 years long. But she says, no, I think that's good. I think that's good. And so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade with 8th graders being confirmed. And it was a great year. We have some really good kids in our church. The weird thing is some of our kids, I didn't know their parents. And so that's our job for getting some of their parents to start being active and engaged in the work of Jesus Christ. We reinstated 8 a.m. service. It's going pretty well. Could use maybe a little energy and stuff, but as far as that goes, it's been well attended, and it's back part of the life of our church. Manna did not have a discernible future, and now it does. CARES Inc. has done a great job of coming in, and we're sharing. CARES Inc. is using the facility, and that's been working out well. They've been utilizing the space for reaching out into our community, and I feel good about Manna. I feel good where it's heading to. It's a great way to fulfill that. Committees have been active in making decisions, and that's where I'm going to invite George Gillespie to come forward to talk about the trustees and where the trustees have been active and engaged. George? I think that. Oh,
I'll have to get my cheat sheet out here.
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay. For the last, can you hear me? Hello. Okay, there we go. What the trustees have done as far as expenditures for the church properties, both here in Manna, the rental property, the parsonage, all of that. We put 2 new air conditioning units in and 2 new furnaces, and we had one furnace, I should say 1 air conditioning unit repaired. That was about, I think, about $30,000 just for that alone. Of course, a little less than a year ago, the rental house across the way over here that used to be the parsonage, septic system went out. That cost us a pretty penny, about $18,000 total. Then, of course, we've had a turnover in that particular unit, and so we had to have a cleaning, minor repairs, touch-up, paint, etc. That was about $1,500 to $1,800. We got 2 defibrillator units here in the church, one upstairs, one downstairs, and then we had one installed over at Manna. And the fascia on the parsonage was blown off in a windstorm. That cost us a little bit of money. Put a new dehumidifier in the basement. So that's pretty much the expenditures that we've had from the trustee standpoint for the last year. One of the things that, when I first got on the trustee committee, that I kept hearing about, maybe some of you heard the name Baird account. Basically, what that is, that's the account of the money that Jacqueline Johnson gave the church a number of years ago, in the tune of about $1 million. And the original intent of that gift was to go towards building a new church. Well, that never materialized, and the church has taken that money and used it in a very judicious manner. It's invested with about 66% of the things are stock options, stocks, big name stocks, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway. There are a lot of really good Fortune 500 companies in that. There's about 26% of that's in bond funds, taxable bond funds. So it's a pretty conservative fund. The Baird Group is the one that was the company that manages that fund for us. It was set up so that they're the ones that are going to continue to manage it. And Charlie Narmy is the person in charge of that. And he watches it. Over the years, we've taken about $250,000 out of that account for various things. What you see in here, the refurbishing of the church. One year we had put some shingles on Fellowship Hall, etc. We had a gutter issue a little over a year ago, and that really made a tremendous difference in the water problems we had down in the basement. We had some real issues down there, and we were concerned about maybe one of the walls might give away. But as it stands, we have got potentially in the next year another, just a guesstimate, but it's maybe $125,000 to $150,000 that we're going to invest in redoing and making and expanding our ability to do the video, the transmissions of the outreach of the church to over the internet, and the sound system. So those are things that we really feel we have to do because that's where it's going, and that's why we're live streaming tonight, because a lot of people requested that we live stream to this particular thing. So I think that we've got we can feel good in the church that we've got that solid financial nest egg as long as we manage it properly. And as long as I'm involved with trustees, I'm going to keep kind of an eye on it a little bit to make sure that we don't go crazy and spend too much of it. Because if you take too much out of that account, you have to cash in stocks. Well, if you know what the stock market's doing right now, it's way down. So technically, we've lost some money. But what happens with the stock market? It always comes back. So I think that's the thing we can take out of this whole thing, is that the church is on a good, solid financial footing.
Thank you, George, very much. And George kind of dipped into a couple other things moving into the future. And it's one of the things we was talking about is, Mike South will stand up here and talk a little bit about what we're heading for as far as the sound system and things like that. Our SPRC has been very active, too, in this last year. And I'll let John Billingsley, he's part of the SPRC, I'll let John explain what we've been up to, and I'll let you know a little bit about some of the things that we're looking at. There you go.
Thanks.
Yep.
How about it, Carl? Can you hear me? Good. Glad to be here tonight. I'm glad to see so many people showed up. Thank you. The Staff Parish Relations Committee, or SPRC, effectively filled a secretary position temporarily this past year. We put together interviews and resume collecting, but we were unsuccessful in hiring anyone. And that was because there just wasn't a good fit, and there wasn't good candidates. SPRC has also started to work with CB Salem staff to create a new type of staff culture that we felt was missing. SPRC has recommended that CB Salem's worship director, Carl Jacoby, take a 4-week sabbatical for renewal. Carl accepted that, and we're working together with Carl, and we're looking at a first quarter 2023 timeframe for that to happen. CB Salem's SPRC is very open to changes and new philosophies. This is a group of people that is a really good group of people to work with. Everybody's engaged when we have meetings, and we're looking forward to this because we're trying to take good steps in the right direction. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thanks, John. Yeah, wonderful. And I have, sometimes when you start working with the new SPRC, I don't know, the old philosophy is that if there's the SPRC hasn't met very long because there hasn't been too many problems. Well, the SPRC isn't just there when problems occur. The SPRC is there to make certain that the staff of our church and the parish of our church have good relations. Hence, Staff Parish Relations Committee. And so we try and stay up on that. And I think the group that I've witnessed around that table for SPRC, excellent group of people, and they're ready and willing to move forward. And so that's been a bright spot, too, this year. And I see Carol and Andy and a few others who are in SPRC, and it's just great. Well, I think, I don't have a list of who's on there right now, but Andy, Hraske, and Carol, and Lisa. Who else? Raise your hand if you're on. Of course, John. And, and then Carol Reeder. Kelly Baker, Josh and Kelly couldn't make it tonight, but who's that? Yeah, Rod Miller. I thought you said Vaughn. I was like, Rod Miller. Yeah, thank you. Rod Miller's on there. And these are the people that are talking more about how we work with things. As far as I've been understanding, it's been a while, and so it's really good to have them active and moving and strong, and they have great insight, and I'm excited. I'm excited for this next year with the SPRC. Now, before we get to Len, who's going to talk a little bit about our administrative council, there's been a few changes for our UMW, and Betty, are you willing to come forward and let us know some of the changes and really because yesterday was a great day for UMW, or United Women in Faith. Yeah.
As he says, the name has changed. But I'm here to tell you that's all that's changed. If you look at the purpose and the scope of what is now the United Women in Faith, it's just like you took a piece of celery and called it a carrot. Guess what? It's still celery. It's just a new name, and that's all. The money hasn't changed. It still goes to the UMW. It's just a new branding. It caused so much commotion that I thought maybe we ought to talk about it for just a minute. Now, if you have more questions, come ask me, 'cause I only know what I know about it. But that's what it is. It's just a new name. That's it. It's not a new organization. It's mainly meant to, because of the commotion inside the main church, if things happen, then the women can go either direction and still be part of the United Women in Faith. That's the biggest reason for it. It's not meant to be a divider. It's meant to be a coalition. It's meant to bring people together rather than be a division.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, very good, because there's going to be lots of changes in the Methodist denomination, United Methodist denomination over the next few years, so you're just going to see some of the ways that people are still going to continue working together, maybe, as Betty said, under a new name. Now, there's going to be a new name for us, too. We call it the Ed Council, but we're working on trying to get it to be a new name. But Len Cox is part of our administrative council. Mike South is part of our administrative council. Who else? Wave your hand at me if you're... Oh, we got Greg and Jody and Betty, who just talked, and Meredith Gray. These are people who are talking about the future direction of our church. And so, Len, do you need any notes or anything? Or? You got it all in your... Man, you're good. Here we go. Len Cox.
Okay. As everyone knows, I'm Len Cox. Administrative Council, as Jason commented, is kind of changing its name. We're doing a lot of training. We're studying with a book that we've been going through. And in that, we're also taking in some of the things that are happening in the church. A lot of them haven't been implemented yet, or we're touching and going on some of the things. But like one of the things that we've experienced is manna. There's opportunities for everyone to help at manna. The children's worship here, there's things that people can do to help. I guess my pitch from the Ad Council is we need volunteers everywhere. This is our church, and so we all need to step forward and take part in our church. The Ad Council kind of controls some of that, but in the long run, everyone is a part of that. Manna is just going fantastic. They always can use help. SBRC, although you may not know them, they can always use your prayers. And I think that's one thing that we forget is we can always leave prayers for everyone that can help do what we should be doing. That's one of the things Jason is emphasizing in Ad Council is we need to pray on things. That will give us the answers that we need. And if we don't do what he says, what are we doing in the first place? Correct. Not what Jason, we don't do what Jason says, we do what God says.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's right. We just pray to God so that God gives us direction. That we do what God does. And that's really where we're at. In this past year, what I've felt with it as a pastor here, there's been no real major upheavals to saying, let's change, let's do some different things, let's look at it. The administrative council, as we'll come up here in a minute and explain, is getting a whole new makeover, changing the way we lead the congregation and lead this church. But the whole idea is that there hasn't been a single person who's told me, that's it, I'm done and I'm leaving, right? Everyone's been here saying, okay, let's move forward. And I've asked the church to do a few things. I've been a little bit hard on you about things, and people have stuck right in the game. And so, to me, for 2023, 24, 25, CB Salem's got a pretty good little future ahead of it. I'm pretty sure, and I know God wants us to strengthen. That's a big thing, and it's going to take cooperation. It's going to take understanding, and so far I've seen quite a bit of that. So that's been the work that we've been doing this last year. It's taken several months sometimes to, you introduce something and then we talk about it, and then finally you just see kind of light bulbs going on. And without getting into the administrative structure is really, I think, a very key point, a very key turning for our church and to take care of it. So you'll hear more about that as we go on to about our vision. And so I think, for as far as I know, is that should be it in our section for our work, and that's what we've been doing in the past. So now, I think that before we close this section out, I think we do a word of prayer, thanking God for this last year. So let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the way that you've molded us together and the ways that you've kept us open and the opportunities for working together. A lot of us here, Lord, are willing to see where you want us. And so continue stirring us, never letting us go, always keeping us on task for you, for your glory. So, Lord, we thank you for the work that we have done, and we look forward to the work that we're going to do together in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, now, my favorite part. But, what's that? Yes, it is my favorite part. So here's what we have to do. I got to get my script, because there's an official script to be a presiding elder at a charge conference. Do we have someone willing to and ready to be and serve as secretary of the church conference? So this is the form. I got a pen and a backup for you. Or if you want to use the laptop, the same exact form, only in this, and you can type in. So, anybody want to be? Raise your hand. John Billingsley has been nominated. John, do you accept the nomination?
Reluctantly, okay.
Reluctantly, okay. John, which form? Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. All those in favor of John being the secretary say aye, and all those opposed say I'll do it. All right, we're good. So John, which would you like, this form or that form?
Let's just do the clipboard.
Clipboard for now. Now, all that's been filled out. We just need to, somebody, Natalie, can you take a count to see how many people are here? And then just tell John how many people. That's a real important thing. Okay, so here's where it's going to get weird. We have to approve the 2021 minutes. All those in favor of approving the 2020, say aye. Aye. Good. All right, now we've got that done. Now, on your form, you have, this is the important one, though, to me. This is the one I like, and we'll talk about it this. See, is the mission and ministry plan for 2023, and you all have that. And so one of the things, and I'll tell you that the thing that I was presented with when I got here was that we wanted to relaunch and restart after COVID in a new way. And we have been doing that. We have been trying to simplify accountable structure for our administrative council. The Baird Fund, how we're handling that, we need to repurpose and look into that, and we'll talk more about that. George touched on that. Four things. If you turn to, if you turn this page over, if you have one, and it should say at the top of this page, if you have a packet or not, and if you don't have a packet, sorry, I'm just going to read it to you anyway. But it says, what are 3 to 5 missional priorities? So obviously one is the audio-video upgrade. We're going to do that, and Mike will come up and talk a little bit more about the future vision of that. And then change to a simplified accountable structure of leadership. That's really a fancy way of saying a one-board style. And then understand and repurpose our $1 million Baird Fund. That's number 3. And then SPRC is building a new cooperative culture for staff and parish relations. So those are our 4 missional priorities. Getting these things straight starts to result in health of the church. And every year we're just working hard to get a step closer to health, a little healthier. And before long, before we know it, we're a greased machine for Jesus. We can even, I think I figured out a new name for the church. Greased Machine, United Methodist Church. So in that priority number 1, it says, how will you measure success? Better quality of audio, video production. We have no goal date yet because of looking into our, looking into paying for it, we got a little bit of an understanding of our Baird Fund. So we have to kind of put this on hold till we figure out how to utilize best the Baird Fund. And Mike South is our guy who is inspired and strong to do that. So he'll be the one that we keep checking with, and he keeps his eye on it. Meaning who or a person is responsible. So you're responsible for the whole thing, Mike, okay? And then the priority number 2, which is change our simplified accountable structure. Who will measure success? Well, how will you measure success? When leaders create guiding document and covenant. And that's one of the ways this new one board will create a guiding document and a covenant together. And we'll talk more about that in our next section. We're looking at fall of 2023 for that, and I'm the one responsible for that. And then of course, how will you measure success for the Baird Fund, understanding the Baird Fund, when the fund fits CB Salem's ministry? And George will talk more about what we have come to understand about the direction and things that we're currently in. We're looking at summer of 2023 maybe. We're hoping we can get things kind of ironed out and figured out, and George is our point person on that. And then of course our final thing is is John Billingsley and Andy Hrasky and Carol Reeder and Lisa Cooper-Ohm and the rest of our SPRC. And no, did I miss anybody? I mean a few that aren't here, Kelly and Rod. What they'll do is they'll make sure that each staff member has an active rep from SPRC. That's going to be one of the ways that we measure it. So each one of our staff members has someone they connect to, talk to, share things, how's the job going, that type of stuff. We're hoping spring of 2023 we can get that going. And I just wrote Andy Hrasky. Andy's one I've been working closely with a lot of these things. He's got a good matrix. Is that right? Do you call it that? Or what is it that document you create for us? What's it called? A matrix. Okay, so it's perfect. You just see how things line up. It's just Andy's good with that. I'm not, so that's why we have Andy taking care of that. And I think those are our 4 missional priorities. And so, I do you have any questions about that? I know it's kind of a loaded question because there's so many things I just vaguely said, and there's things that you're going to hear more from our reps about the future of some of these missional goals and priorities. But does anything sound really way off to anybody? Now understand, there are other things too that are important, but as well as you and I all know that you can't do everything all at once. And so you just do for a while what you can and then start to go into other things. So are we okay with this? So if I said, do we, for all those in favor of this ministry action plan, say aye? So all those in favor of this ministry action plan, say aye. All those opposed, say nay. All right, that's carried. So we're good on the ministry and mission plan. Board of Trustees report. So then we flip over the page. We go to the Board of Trustees report, and basically all of these things, guys, are just the church building land value, church furnishings value, lots of different things. I think one thing that we should probably look into is have a energy audit. It's not a bad idea, those kind of things. But for the most part, this lets the conference know just our physical structure. It hasn't changed much. Maybe some of the values have adjusted. So we don't really, yeah, we have to, I guess. I'll entertain a motion to accept the 2000, no, we don't have to do the Board of Trustees, so we're good. Yep, all right. So that one is in there for just land values and things like that. Local church historian report. So we flip over the next page to the local church historian report. I'll give everybody about a minute to just kind of peruse that and look over it. Might be some things you didn't know, and maybe some corrections if you would, possibly, if you know better something. It is a front and back document, so. And for those of you maybe confused, our district is Aldersgate District, not the Southwest District used to be. Church was founded in 1893, is that correct? Is anybody? Okay. Present church built 69. Okay. All right. So I will entertain a motion if someone would like to move that we accept the local church historian report. Say, has anybody motion to move, accept? So moved. Okay, do we have a second? All right, so all those in favor of moving the local church historian report, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, that has changed. We don't have any first and second readings. I'm going to be a little transparent with that. Under me, you won't, unless somebody tells me a really good reason why you would take so much time and so many years just to kick somebody out of the church. So I've never understood why we do that. I think it used to be because membership had to deal with apportionments, and so people were wanting to clean up their books, because if you had too many people who live in Colorado and never show up here or something like that, you'd pay apportionments for them. That isn't the case anymore. So cleaning up our books might just be somebody would just, it bothers them to have bits and pieces out there that aren't really attached to our church, if that makes sense. So if somebody wants to take this on, you're more than welcome to do so, but it's a lot of work. So we don't have any of those. We do have transfer of membership, Eileen Lloyd, Judy Neitster. They were transferred into here. And then confirmation, Ruby Brandt, Nathan Beinoff, Amelia Chadwick, Robert Carnelson, Cammie Damgard, Colton Lane, Jude Meska, James Scott, Corbin Teen, and Corey Teen. Those are all accepted into the Salem United Methodist Church, either by transfer or confirmation. I think we have those who have been excluded from our church in death, and those have to be updated. For some reason, we didn't get that. That didn't change. It looks like it says none right here. No, sorry, I'm on the wrong page, duh. Members removed. I thought we had one that had. Oh, we don't. Okay, I thought it used to be that we'd read those who have passed and are no longer members of our church, but we don't have that anymore. I thought we still did. Well, okay, good. Do I hear a motion to approve the reading of these transfers and confirmations? Okay, second? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moved. Ministry enlistment report, we have Jonathan Cox. This is basically a formality, but it makes certain, and I don't know if we said tonight, no, we don't move Jonathan on. Jonathan doesn't stop his process and stop, but it is one of the things, since this is his home church, that we, via church conference, say, Jonathan, you're good. All those in favor of Jonathan, continue, say aye. Aye. There we go. Motion carried. And then we have lay servants. So we have Ted Gray, and Ted has done some great things. Here along this, we will let the DS know, district superintendent know that. Unless you want me to read that. Does anybody want me to read that right now? No, okay, that's it. But this is great. And also Betty Smallin, for also certified lay servant, and Meredith Gray as well. And so we have 3 people before us to be certified as, certified lay servants. All those in favor of approving them as certified lay servants, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, good. They are fulfilled. Now we're on to the Form I, we call it pastoral support. This is my salary. This is the pastor's salary. There's a definite designation here, and I want everybody to understand that. The day that I remembered that it's not my salary, but the office of the pastor's salary. So what Salem offers to clergy coming in here is this. And this way we can talk openly about, is it competitive? And one of the main things about the salary, your salary you, as a church, is that you want it to make certain that not a lot of pastors are having to take like an $8,000 or $10,000 cut, or one year you have to raise it $12,000. So it's always good to keep in mind what is a good salary to keep up with. I've been a part of church where they kind of let it go over years and then had to bring $16,000 in 1 year in order because they had too many churches, too many pastors who just said, I can't take that big of a pay cut. So that is a definite reason. There is a reality to that. And so, in my opinion, we're pretty good. We haven't changed at all. The cash compensation is $73,000 a year with health insurance and pension fund. We don't call it pension, but that's good enough. So those two things are church contributed, which brings up the total package to $106,000 as what we pay our pastor. With a $1,600 reimbursement travel, if that is necessary, the church then has a fund where they pay if you travel somewhere, since there's no company car, that kind of thing. Also, a housing exclusion. This gets a little confusing. It says $10,000 housing exclusion. This is, we provide a parsonage. In that parsonage, we do not pay for utilities or anything like that. The clergy does. And so the clergy can claim that as an exclusion, which helps that clergy out with taxes. Without getting too detailed, clergy taxes for United Methodists and Roman Catholics are extremely difficult, simply because in both cases you're considered self-employed, but you also belong to a diocese or a conference, which then you are an agent, so now you are also a W-2 holder. So some of the benefits of being self-employed you don't get, but you still have to pay your full Social Security. So the church doesn't pay half or whatever percentage of my Social Security, I pay it all, which is something that has been very difficult to manage over the years. And your seminary debt and those things. But I digress. But that's what's happening. That's why there's a housing exclusion. So the IRS says you can claim, I think, up to $50,000 if you'd like, but I can't prove that I spend $50,000 a year on cleaning supplies and all sorts of stuff for upkeep or cleaning, things like that. So that's a real quick rundown of our Form I. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah, Brian. Good question. So that's SPRC and finance. So SPRC does a little bit of looking into it and saying, okay, is our salary for basically all our staff, but is our salary for our pastor okay? And then they'll look into what tools there are, and then they go to the finance team and say, okay, here's what we're looking at. We're looking to up at whatever X of dollars. Finance goes, how about this much? And then they go, well, how about this much? And they go back and forth. So it's those two groups. Good question. Any others? All right, so if this all looks good to you or sounds good to you, we need a motion to approve the 2023 Pastoral Support Form I. Motion, okay. Second? See a second. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, that's carried. This is also to approve the housing exclusion specifically. I explained that to you. It's that $10,000. So, John, you have to sign that right at the bottom and date it. That just says you're all aware of what that is and you're okay with it, and you're okay with the amount, $10,000. I know other pastors have put a lot more on there, and they kind of get away with it, but knowing my luck, if I put a whole bunch on there and I can't prove I spent all that, then I usually, my luck, I'd get audited and have to pay back all the money. So $10,000 is good. So we're okay with that. John's filling it out because by support, okay in the Form I, we just okayed this. Then a resolution on accountable reimbursement plan. $1,650 in a year's time for whatever I spend on, if I have to drive to Des Moines for a hospital visit or annual conference or something of church business. That's up to me, but there is $1,650 there to reimburse for gas, wear and tear on the vehicle, stuff like that. So, need a motion to approve this 2023 resolution accountable reimbursement plan. So move second, got a second. All those in favor, aye. Opposed? All right, and I think that is good. I think I lost my script and all of that. Okay. Good. Now, the last thing we're going to do before we move on to the final part is, how do I word this? We're going to give the leadership of the church opportunity to instill officers and servants and leaders and stuff as we see fit throughout the year. As opposed to preparing this whole long list of people who are going to do this, people who are going to do this, I think it's best just to open the church and give, through charge conference action, give us the okay to say, I don't know, I'll pick on Greg. Greg wants to be on the finance team. Based on what we're going to do here, that allows us to put Greg on the finance team. If we don't do this, we still put Greg on the finance team. But just it's good to give the church an open, blank slate to fill positions in the church as needed. Understanding that the SPRC talk about it, and there'll be an aspect to our simplified accountable structure, our one board for nominations and things like that, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So as of right now, we're just going to give, I'll say SPRC and Ed Council open use of, an open slate of whoever they want to put in. Does that make sense? Did I explain that okay? So I need a motion for that. See him, all right, and then a second. All those in favor of opening that up and giving a clean slate to SPRC and Ed Council to put who we feel is necessary in positions, say aye. And all those opposed? Okay, that's it. We are done. Let's finish in a prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for these forms, keeping us accountable and keeping us in direction. We hope, Lord, they hold tight and strong and keep us moving forward. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, now our final part tonight is, so we've done our work, we've done our forms, and now we do our vision, and this is what this is where I'm real excited about. I think, so we're going to do the online, so Mike, and you, Mike, if you want to, you can refer to Carl up there. Carl can kind of help out. Scott, too, has been an integral part of this, so feel free to holler up to those guys if you need to. The Baird Fund, George is here. Sue is also here in case, George says something crazy, like whatever we're short, Sue will put the money in or on her own personal, but Sue's here too, who understands a little bit of that. And then the one council, one board, I'll talk to you about what that's going to be like. And then John will finish it. John will come out with SPRC and talk about some of the ways that we're starting the new culture of staff parish relations. And then Natalie and I will conversate a bit on our discipleship pathway. Now that's one thing that we're kind of sneaking in, but we're not putting, it's just Natalie and I working on it for right now. And I think that's exciting. She's doing a great job of researching and looking in different ways. And then closing, and then a few questions if you have. And so hopefully everything go well. We'll wrap this up in about, half an hour, 20 minutes. All right? So, Mike, without further ado, we got the microphone for you. We give Mike the mic. Hey, everybody give Mike a hand. There we go. All right, it's all yours.
All right. So I'll kind of keep it short, but the audio-video project. So, towards the end of 2019, before COVID hit, it was very apparent that our audio system's reaching its end of life. A lot of the equipment's dated and old, and it was just time to refresh it. Then COVID hit, and then there was a big push to have that online presence that we needed. And Carl and Scott and Josh, they all did really good to get that going. But again, that also highlighted the need to update our stuff. So coming out of all of that, we're going to go down this path to upgrade our audio and video and just kind of bring Salem into the 20th century, because a connected world is what we live in now. So it's time to take that step into it. What all that entails, so the primary is the audio in the sanctuary. So basically everything's going to get refreshed. It's going to kind of remove the echoey PA system we have. It's going to eliminate the squeals, that goes away. But overall, updates all that with new stuff. Another big part of that's going to be the simplification of the video system, everything that's streaming. The biggest thing there is to make it more user-friendly for one or two people. There's a lot going on up there in the Dropbox, whatever you want to call it up there. But overall, it's going to simplify that, make it a lot easier for everybody to run. It adds a more production value to everything, so the streaming service can be increased. And just the overall streaming and audio video that goes out from here just gets a lot better by cleaning up and enhancing that. But yeah, that's kind of the quick rundown of it. Now there's a lot more going on. There's equipment. It's got to get laid out. It's got to get tuned. There'll be sound stuff that gets put up that stops the echo, all that stuff. And the cost is going to be somewhere between $130,000 to $170,000. It kind of depends. The market's real volatile for audio video equipment right now. So it's just, that's what it is. Can't really get around it. But the online presence, you know, it's here to stay, and I use it a lot, and I think this is the right path for us to go to get all this upgraded. So.
And when we were talking, somebody said, you know, this is the future of the church, and what was your response to that? When they said this is the future of the church?
It is. We live in a connected world, so that's what it is. And you know, if we didn't do the online presence, then the church would have been empty with nothing for 2 years over COVID. Yeah. And you know, you can imagine what that might have done to us. You know, just sitting there idle.
And one might think it's not really the future. It's been here for what, 10 years now. You know.
Oh yeah, we're definitely behind.
Yeah.
On it.
Yeah.
But you know, I use it a lot. Our family does. You know, if somebody's sick, you're at home, you watch it. If you're gone, you watch it. Sometimes you don't want to go anywhere, so you watch it. So I mean, it's really the future to get connected and to project the message out to everybody. So
Excellent.
And that's kind of a quick rundown. Of course, if you have questions on the details, you know, feel free to ask me, Carl. Definitely ask Scott. Stop him at every minute, second, and ask him. He loves to talk to people and all that. We've already identified a company and quoted it out with them. They're House Right. They're out of Kentucky. They specifically do churches. They've done a lot of churches in our area. So they really understand how to put a system in that's real immersive. And it's kind of hard to describe what we're going to go to where we get away from the kind of old echoey PA system that we kind of have now, where it's a fully immersive sound system that really is all around you and just kind of like brings that music and really makes it a lot, kind of just opens it up. So.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Mike?
Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to? Okay, Andy, hold on. I'm going to come over here. We're going to do this. It's going to be kind of weird, but I'm going to give you this so you can ask, so people can hear your question.
Mike, I think I know the answer to this, but if you could just comment on, this is where we were, this is where we are. It sounds a bit reactionary. I don't think that is the case. So this is not necessarily, is this something to do to survive, or is this something to do to thrive?
It's kind of both, you know. A lot of the equipment's old, the speakers are old, wiring's old, some of the other equipment's old. So that has to be updated no matter what. But if you just piece part it, that's all it ever is just a piece part thing. So you take it further into that immersive system to thrive, like you said. So it's like we got to do it to survive, but we're taking it to being able to thrive as well and go beyond that. And not just fix things as they need to be, because it's, you know, the system's like a machine. It needs to be maintained and stuff reaches its end of life, and you have to make that call. Do you just change the oil, or do you overhaul the engine? And we're going to overhaul it.
Good. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you, Andy Hrasky. Anyone else? Any questions, anything like that on the sound system? Yes, Linda.
Yeah, that's all.
So she asked this for people online, because we have people on. Is that, so with all the changes, will people here be able to see and understand and feel the upgrade?
When the people at home, you know, will get the whole feel for the congregation singing and all.
Oh, yeah, miking the congregation, put a mic above.
That's all part of the production part of it. So we're getting into that production part. That's going to be, you know, new cameras, new angles, and then there'll be a plan put together for that. So, you know, during songs, you can show the congregation, or you can show the band or whatever. So all that's part of the whole thing. It's not just the equipment. It's the whole plan and the immersion and the production value.
And one quick way that we're going to do that too is we're going to have interaction with, so we're going to have online greeters. So we're going to have a few people who who are on the computer when someone logs in and says, good morning, is there any, we can pray for you, how things going? And some people, based on experience myself, have just gone, no, and they go off, but some will type back to that online greeter and say, yes, can you please, blah, blah. And so it's an online presence, and we just need the equipment to set up that online presence, and then as we start to talk about content more, we start asking some of those questions of how do we get this to be as close to an experience as we can, knowing that you'll never fully do it, but just to where it's not just hearing and seeing better, but also interacting a little better. Even we'll possibly be moving on to more things like online Bible studies. People in New Zealand can join us for the Bible study, but when we start this, that's when we start to become more
Yeah, and the
online.
company that's gonna come in and install us, they're not just installers, so they work with churches to get it all put together, and they help us with that. And that's another thing is, right now, if there's an issue, it's just Carl and the guys that try to figure everything out. They're also gonna be, this company provides that assistance as well to help take all that stress off of them, so it just makes everything a lot easier, a lot more smooth, so.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions? And a good segue from Mike to George and Sue. Anything you want to add, Carl? Anything that either one of you want to add? Oh, the screen?
Oh, yeah, that'll get updated too. So it's the whole shebang.
Be brighter, more
Yeah,
crisper. It'll be
so-
crisper, brighter.
It'll essentially look like a giant LED, because right now it's, 2,000 lumens, and then the new ones are laser projectors that are 7,000 lumens, so
So then,
it's gonna be bright.
it's going to be beautiful. Anything else, guys, up there in the bird's nest? Okay. So, as we continue talking about this, right, Mike said one day, I just really feel inspired to do this, and Mike came forward, right, and he knew he was being moved to do this. It opened up lots of questions. One of the big one is, how do we pay for this? And I thought the way the Baird Fund was set up, that it was more of a foundational type thing, and so, we can use it to borrow against it and things like that. And, we found that wasn't exactly the case, so we're kind of on hold for a minute. So, Mike, thank you very much. George, and Sue, if you want to just shout from where you're at or help out however you want to do it. So, George, give us some of the future of the Baird Fund.
Come on up.
I think he touched on a little bit about where we're at, but we're going to get into a little more nuts and bolts of it.
Basically, like I said initially, it is a mutual fund, and it's managed accordingly with stocks and bonds. And we have to make sure we can't just take a passive approach to it. We have to make an active approach, working with Charlie and Army to make sure that, for instance, if that fund right now is about $1 million, because like I said, the market's really hit us hard. And so consequently, we're kind of at a status quo as far as it doesn't show any growth from what the original amount of money we had in the capital in that original investment. And
Yeah, we had a little bit of money over the $1 million, and that money has helped us fix the septic system on the rental house and put 3 new AC units.
Well, and over time, since that was, like I said, that we pulled $250,000 out of that in terms of dividends and interest on those particular accounts, and we have probably had to sell some of the stocks to meet some of the obligations when we had a large amount of money we had to pull out. But we've been lucky. The stock market's come back, been able to reinvest, pull those things back up, and keep that $1 million pretty much there. But that's the thing we're having to look at right now, is this down market. We haven't had a market like this since that fund was established. And we're talking about $175,000 maximum on this particular project. That means we're going to have to sell Apple, Google, Microsoft, Berkshire Hathaway, some of those kinds of stocks, which you don't just do it willy-nilly and figure that it's all going to come back, everything's going to be wonderful. You got to be careful with the kinds of things you do that you sell out of that particular fund. we've got very good professional management on this fund, and I think they'll help us work through that, but it's up to us to keep an eye on it.
So Sue, am I correct? Just between you guys, I've talked, there are currently 3 people who can discuss this fund with the NARMI, or Baird group, right?
Yeah.
And those 3 people have been, and just recently, we switched one trustee out with another trustee George being the trustee now who can talk.
Yeah, Sue, I, and Londa Smart are the 3 that have authority to talk to the NARMI group now.
Yeah.
So,
And so what we kind of want to do is, if we understand that that fund was put in there to renovate this facility, and we're not doing that anytime soon, so the fund was kind of set up to write one check basically out of it to a contractor. Well, we're not at that anymore. So this fund, either A, it just sits there and we kind of glean off whenever we can, or we get proactive and start looking into it. Now, the one thing I wanted to, because George keeps looking at me with the group here, we keep talking, and I felt like I needed to reassure George that this isn't a cookie jar, right? This isn't a candy store. We're not just gonna, let's just blow this money, right? Let's just all go buy hats or something. We really have to be wise and know what we're getting into. The NARMIs will help us to repurpose this and understand how it can work better for ministry, right?
right, and that's the thing that maybe there's a situation where maybe we have to put something off a little bit because of the down market, and see if the market will come back, to position ourselves to make sure that we are good stewards of that original $1 million was given to us. Because those of you who knew Jackie, she was very conservative, and she wanted to make sure that we did a good job of managing those monies, and I take that to heart.
And I think it'd be wise for us moving forward to utilize this in all aspects. There could be at some point, sometime down the road, where we have a group of people handling, or at least saying, okay, this year we project to get this out of the Baird Fund, or we do have these excess money in the Baird Fund, and so this group would entertain motions or projects or proposals or something that fit, and then that group begin to say, okay, so for example, Belinda, I'll pick on you a minute. Let's say we have a VBS and Belinda says, we need about $1,500 for t-shirts or something like that. And so Belinda could go to that group and say, is this something we could do? And they could talk about it. It's just a way to utilize this money to be at work. But, sorry, I didn't mean to keep interrupting you there, George.
No, that's fine. That's about all I've got to pass on. Anybody any questions? No.
Yeah,
We
Lee,
can
hold on
cash
just a
in.
second, George. Lee asked, for those of you at home, Lee asked, are we just limited to only using the dividends and interest income gained off of the fund? And George?
Really don't have any limits on it other than ourselves managing that fund, okay? And because it's our money, but we want to do it in a very stewardship fashion, so we do a good job of making sure we don't, like Jason said, it's not a cookie jar, we're going to rob it all the time.
Yeah, and see, this is where it's very important to put the proper leadership, people who have that right conversations, and make certain that we just don't look at this like, well, we got $1 million, let's just, and we have to be wise with money and use it for ministry, and hence have to be wise going into it and knowing what ministry we need to fund.
Yeah, because there may be times when we have large expenditures like this, we're going to have to tighten our buckles up a little bit.
Right.
We won't be able to do some things for a while till hopefully that thing comes back and we come back where we got back to where our fund is. We're comfortable with the amount, trying to keep it around that $1 million amount.
Len, you had a question up there?
I keep on hearing about taking money from them. Are we able to put money back into it?
Oh, yeah.
So
Oh,
Len
yeah,
asked,
absolutely.
Len asked,
Oh, yeah.
are we able to put money back
If you
into
want to write a
the
check,
fund?
then we'll take it.
Well, what I'm referring to is, okay, we're taking out $170,000. If we did fundraisers to get money, can we put that money back in?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah, it's just like any mutual fund you have in your own account.
Or a bank. I mean, literally borrowing from it is not a dumb thing, but you just can't borrow it and then not have any plan. You have to have a plan. If you're going to borrow, let's say $300,000 out of it, the church is going to have a pledge drive. We're going to have people pledging and committing to paying that money back above and beyond our already offering. And so basically, we have our own bank, but we just have to be wise to borrow against it.
Yeah, because like the capital raising campaign we had a few years ago where we eliminated our debt. This is before Jackie gave us the money. And so consequently, that's another way we can go through if we want to go into a capital raising campaign to do that. That would be a way we could put more money into the fund if we have it. It's a good place to put it, is what I'm saying.
And not too many churches are in a position like this. So
no.
we need to be wise with what we got.
Yep.
Any other questions for George? Thank you. And George, just to, I don't want to embarrass you, George, but really, I thought it was set up this way based on my understanding in the past. And George actually says, I don't know. We need to look into this. We need to make certain what we got here. And it was George's help that we just started going, oh yeah, duh, we should probably. And so you've done a lot of legwork. So thank you very much, George.
Well,
and I'll take the mic if you.
It wasn't just me. I mean, Sue and the other people,
Yeah.
the trustees, had done an excellent job of making sure that thing was kept managed in a good way.
Yeah,
Okay?
good. Thank you, George. Thank you very much. Our next step is our administrative council. I don't want to belabor this. I'll go quick, and then John, and then it's Natalie and I right after John. Is that how that goes? So in 1968, EUB and Methodism came together to create United Methodism. The Evangelical United Brethren took the United out of that, and Methodist Episcopal took the Methodist out of that and called us United Methodist. In that prosperous merger, things moved very quickly. And so in order to slow things down, they put together an administrative structure to slow things down and allow things just to settle for a little bit. That's what we're still using today. And so our administrative system is inefficient in many Methodist churches, and I can only say in United Methodist churches. But you'll know what I mean when I say, if you propose something, it may take 6 months for anybody to ever really talk about it. Or here the issue is that you propose something to the finance team thinks it's a great idea, and in that finance team meeting, everything's going well, it's exciting, I think this will be good. But then the finance chair has to, 2 or 3 weeks later, take it to the administrative council meeting where the atmosphere may not be the same, and then presents it, and it just doesn't have that same thing. And so, well, it's interesting. I think the rest of us ed council members are going to think about it, so we'll table this until next month. In the process, you're wondering, what's going on? I met with the finance team. Everything was going well. It's time. In fact, it's been a long time to wash out this system and put a new, more effective way in. So the more effective way that we're going to do is called Simplified Accountable Structure. Not to go too far into that, but it's simplified in that you have, in my opinion, 11, because there used to be 12, and then there was Judas, right? So now there's 11. Plus 11 is an odd number, so you're never going to equal the votes. But you should have 11 people, 11 individuals who are leaders of the church. Not warm bodies, not somebody who you say, well, let's throw them in. And unbelievably, it just seems in this church, the people around our table are the people that need to be there, evidently. And I'm starting to see the commitment and see the thing of, yeah, we're here, we're ready. So what you want to do with the Simplified Accountable Structure is, okay, so you have 11 people, and those 11 people are all, how do I want to say this? Those 11 people all have trustee hats, finance hats, SPRC hats, and worship hats, and all sorts of hats. Now, having said that, you still have 2 reps from the trustees who are trustees because we have things that need to be signed, so you have to designate at least 1 or 2 people trustee designation because they're the legal body of our congregation. Finance people, you should have accounts payable and accounts receivable, or accounts payable, accounts receivable, and it should be that way. But we can talk more about that too. See, we haven't built this yet, so we're working to see what most fits our church. And then you have to have some type of SPRC, usually 3 members, so that 1 person isn't deciding for a pastoral change, and 2 people, if they both disagree, you're stuck with 2 people. So you have 3 people who then, in order to talk about, a pastoral change or some pretty serious thing in the staff. However, those 3 people have the nice luxury of having 8 more people with them to discuss and talk. It stays within that group. But the beauty of this is, okay, now you have your basic needs met from the Book of Discipline of Finance, SPRC, Trustees. But then you have some at-large people that are just on that as good leaders who will help put task people in place, meaning, so for example, let's say, I just use this all the time. Let's say there's a light out, or we need some lights in the parking lot. Well, we would ask the trustees, and then the trustees would hopefully get together and then hopefully make some decision. And maybe one night only 2 or 3 trustees show up, and what we do is we bring it to our simplified accountable structure, or our one board, and the one board says, okay, who can we get in our church to take care of these lights? And we start discussing, Jack is great with electricity. He did this for years. I'll talk with Jack and see if Jack wants to go ahead and do the research and figure it out. Now, we already kind of have that with Bob, really. I mean, seriously, when we needed to do the septic system, where is it? Over there at the rental house, Bob went ahead and connected with Steve. He did the work, he did everything, and then came back to the trustees, and some of the trustees went, well, wait a minute, shouldn't we do this, and shouldn't we do that, and shouldn't we get 3 estimates, and shouldn't we do these kind of things? And that was typical church stuff. That's how we've just always learned it. But what we missed is we had a qualified individual who had a connection with somebody who would get it done very well, and we didn't table it, or we didn't ask 3 different contractors and waited for 3 different contractors to get back to us, which could take up to 2 or 3 months. And then we discussed which one is better. Well, not just the cheapest one is better. We're going to get this, we're going to get that. And it just seems to take forever. Well, the septic system you can't just table for 3 months, right? Or at least the occupant wouldn't like that. So we went ahead and went with Bob because Bob did the work. And all we said to Bob was, thank you. And this is what the simplified accountable structure does. We put a task person in place that we trust. We already know. Now you say, well, what if that task person does a crazy, weird job? Well, then we don't ask that task person to ever do anything like that again. But mostly, guys, we already know the people who do pretty well with things. We already have a large group. Here's the cool thing, is that individual that does the parking lot doesn't have to be part of the trustees. And in fact, the only time we talk with that person is if they say, okay, some contractors are coming out, they're going to do that, blah, blah. And it just seems it's more free. You get your smart people doing it, and you get the people who don't really know what they're doing out of the way, because sometimes we have people who don't know what they're doing. And so it places the leadership in the right hands. Now, those are just task people. The 11 people at the heart of it are also learning different things like leadership skills, developing some different connections together too. It's not like your ed council where you get together and just talk about business. It's designed on loving, learning, and leading. So the meetings are an hour and a half, and they have loving, which how do we care for one another? How can we be in prayer for you? There's times where you can feel vulnerable and say, look, my father died 6 months ago, and I'm having a difficult time with it. I've watched this. And then the next is the learning section, just bringing something in that, and that's usually the pastor looking into something that we may need to learn outside of our brains. And then the last half hour is leading. And when we lead, we don't talk about things like, details like, well, we're going to have a potato bar. Should we have shredded cheese or cheese spread? We don't worry about things like that. We talk about the business, and we do it fictionally and effectively. And over time, we get good at it. There's a covenant that we have to get together, a guiding documents of this is what the reasoning we do this. The covenant is more like, please commit to doing this. It's hard to do anything for the church when you only have a third or even less of the people show up. I've heard so many times. I don't feel comfortable making this decision with one other person for the church. And so the covenant is up front that says, if you're doing this, I'm going to do it with you, you're going to do it with me, and we're going to be here together. We're going to put it as a little more of a priority. Now, how far does that go? Obviously, if your grandkids are playing baseball or being baptized, right? Okay, you could probably beg off a meeting for that. But if the Alzheimer's dinner or the booster club for the Red Hats are in town, whatever it is, you make this the priority. And so this is what our church is going to move to doing more of. Jay Johnson from the conference is coming in this month. If I can work out our schedules, man, it's hard to get him going. But anyway, and he's going to walk us through a more detailed and more fine process of this. And so this is what we're going to work on as ad council. You will see lots of changes coming down over the next couple of years in the church. So that is simplified accountable structure. That's as quick as I can do it, John. Are you ready?
Ready as I'm gonna be.
All right, I'll get you a mic. I think there you go.
Cool. Carl, can you hear me? We want to talk a little bit here about what SPRC is thinking about going forward. First of all, SPRC is really the human resources group of the church. That's our job. SPRC staff culture has been okay, but it's lacked in intentional ways to take care of and partner with our staff. And we identified that as an issue that we felt going forward we needed to come together with them and garner a stronger culture of support and cooperation between the staff of the church and the parish and the members. We've already talked about renewal for Carl, so we'll move on from that. We also want to match responsibility with authority for our facilities manager, Bob. And you touched on some of that when you talked about the parking lot and lights and all those things. We think that that's pretty important. We also want to assemble a support team for our youth and children's ministries for Belinda and help out in that regard. We'll also begin working towards a process of discipleship with small groups and growth opportunities through our coordinator, which is Natalie. As these positions become more defined, we will then work to add an administrative assistant. We currently have a temporary interim person that's helping out, and that's Jessica Larson. And she's helping to define what our needs are, because really right now we just don't know. We don't have a good job description. So that's part of what she's working on. Excuse me while I cough. Any questions? Good.
All right, excellent. Well, as John said a little bit about the process of discipleship, and that's really what every church should be engaged in, just a way to get closer to Jesus Christ, a way to get all of us here to take our love out sometimes and put Jesus' love in. Sometimes our love is conditional and we're not really feeling it right now. So a disciple is one who just says, okay, I'm not qualified, but he is. And so we bring him in to lead us. And over time, we begin to just pretty much, we don't know the difference anymore. And we are not just followers of Jesus Christ, but livers of Jesus Christ. So Natalie and I have been talking. Natalie, do you need a microphone? Do you want me to ask you? I'll ask you a few questions. So Natalie asked me to take a look at this thing called Rooted. And tell us a little bit about that, just as like in 12 words or less. No, I'm just kidding. But tell us a little bit about Rooted that you've seen into.
The Rooted Network is an organization, I think they've been around for about 12 years, but they provide this 10-week discipleship growth for groups, and it's all about, you mentioned loving and learning together, and it's absolutely about drawing closer to one another in community, and you do that through experiences, and you do that through helping you develop. They have 7 spiritual rhythms that you go through together, and like there's one separate night where you come together again outside of your normal time for prayer There's another time where you come together outside of your normal time for doing something out in the community. And I've got some data. So the Rooted Network, based on from information that they've collected from people who have gone through the program, churches, 70% of people who go through the program end up volunteering and serving more. 82% of people increase their financial generosity, and 90% of people go on to engage in more group life, more community, more fellowship. And I think that we're supposed to do life together. We're supposed to grow in our faith together. And I think that this could be a really great way for Salem to do that.
Excellent. And that's what really helps me to understand as Natalie and I talked a while back, it really doesn't matter what process, although Natalie has found a great and excellent one, it's that we commit to it. Trust me, there's a whole bunch of things, a whole different groups that we could use. Rooted's one of many, but the point is to commit to that. Because we're not committed to Rooted, we're committed to Jesus Christ. And so however we can come closer to him is what we're looking for. And this isn't like all 80 people all at once. It's how you're led by the Spirit. If you feel like you want to be closer, if it feels like there's just something pulling me in, I want to know, talk to Natalie or myself. And we can talk more about how we can do this. And again, one of the things too is we wanted it to move organically. We didn't want to control this and put dates. We're starting to put some dates together. And Natalie and I haven't had a whole lot of meetings after that. She's just done some good research and found out some things. And so I've put some trust into Natalie there. She's got a degree, for crying out loud, in Bible studies. So, so she's pretty good with that. Now, the thing that I really am excited about with this is that Natalie went ahead and I didn't tell her, okay, by this date we'll have this, and I want you to, but just began to let the Spirit lead her, just like Mike is letting the Spirit lead him with the sound system, and how our SPRC is looking to better the church through our staff. All sorts of things that we're doing, and God is at work. And friends, wrap it up now, but God is at work here. And I've been appreciative of Natalie being open because, again, when she was hired, everything changed and everything went COVID-19, and now what do we do? And I never felt right about ever, and I know this might sound weird, but sometimes pastors move in and we remove the staff and then we put all new staff in. I've never liked that. I think God has put you here and Belinda here and Carl here and even Bob, yes, even Bob, here for a purpose and for the reason. And so I believe to work with those parameters. And he comes forward in ways that surprise us. God knows more about our church than we do. And so to put our whole trust in that, it means to become a disciple. And that is what we are called to do. Now again, if we continue this, the church strengthens. And Natalie, I love the statistics. At the same time, that's not the reason, right? We don't want you just to give more. We don't want you to, but we want people to find fulfillment in their relationship with God. Take it to a level that they didn't understand was there. How are we going to know how to know if we don't know? So this is what you can count on over the next several years, is this constant betterment of our discipleship. And I don't know, I was telling Natalie, I don't know where this is going to go. We may have 4 people in the next 8 years, but those 4 people are going to be some solid 4 people. So anyway, to wrap up tonight, and thank you, Natalie. To wrap up tonight, if we just stay patient, this is the worst part about being a pastor, and I think a farmer. But even a farmer, when you plant it, there's a time where it's going to grow. But sometimes as pastors, I just want it to happen. And what God has led me to be patient and led me to understand that he'll bring people forward. He'll bring the workers. The harvest is there. But we just have to work in his way. And that can be difficult. So I appreciate George tonight coming forward with the Baird Fund. Mike, all the work you're doing with Scott and Carl on the sound system. But I'm not even just the sound system, is struggling with the interruption of the finances. John and Andy and Carol and the rest of the SPRC, Lisa, have done a great job of being open to moving in directions that we've never have with our staff. And finally, guys, as a church, thank you for being open and ready. And I know it's been an hour and a half we've been sitting here, so it's time to wrap up and head home. But I want us to leave here tonight knowing that all of this is moving. And that's what I wanted you to see tonight. I know it wasn't maybe, there could have been watching NFL football would have been better, but I want you to see that the church is moving. I want you to see that you have people involved. And so if you yourself want to get involved and you want to connect and say, show me how you're doing this, or show me where you're going, the invitation is open. Let me know, though, if you just don't show up and expect. But really, the people that we have in place are good leaders, and we're going to take Salem United Methodist Church into the future with them, and whoever else wants to be a part of that. All right? Thank you, Natalie, too, for just stepping up and talking a little bit. Natalie and I didn't script this in one way, or I know it's probably hard to tell that I wasn't scripted or anything. But Natalie looked at me like, okay, I just give Jason this much room to talk, and then she comes up with more specific things, which is perfect. All right, so let's wrap this up with a word of prayer. Any real questions, quick, anything that you want to know about? What's... What was that? Oh, Special Olympics. All right, thank you. Oh, yeah, that'll be at the Iowa Western campus, won't it? Oh, that's right. Okay. All right, well, let's, if there are no questions, let's take a moment of silence, and then I'll finish it with prayer. Let's bow our heads. Gracious Lord, thank you for being here tonight. We invited you and you showed up, and we know that you will show up for the years to come with us. Let us be faithful to you, Lord, and allow us to be strong and courageous amidst doubts, amidst fears, and Lord, help us to be vulnerable to one another so that we may grow in strength for your glory. So, Father, what we're saying is take this church and guide it in the way you want it. We are here to be your servants in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you all for coming, and